with their 8-game schedule. Seems like a lot of Vols fans were pretty pissed about Georgia still being on the schedule, which, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I was surprised based on people I talked to that Georgia was still on the schedule. It seemed like that was trending, that was not going to be the case, because it's probably not going to be the case after 2024 anyway, so you might as well get off that now. But they end up still getting Georgia in 2024. They don't get Texas in 2024, which, again, I thought that would be like a slam dunk for them, where you want Arch in Knoxville. Like, you want to make sure you land that the right way if you can, because if you talk about, like, if you forecast the number one ratings SEC game 2 years from now, I think Arch in Knoxville is probably the favorite. Texas, and just the fan base size alone, the real UT, Arch versus Nico, all that was in play. I mean, I guess maybe you could do it the following, like, we'll see, but
it makes way more sense, or maybe not way more sense, but it makes sense that it would happen the following year now, because if Tennessee's going to Oklahoma, and in theory you're playing, the way they're staggering the schedule, you're going to play Oklahoma and Texas the first 2 years. It would make sense for Texas to come back to Tennessee in what would be Arch and Nico's junior year, which in theory, again, it's hard to project all this stuff.
That's what I'm saying. It's just hard to project.
And Texas would be the best that year.
Yeah, I just look at it as like, I'm pretty certain Nico and Arch will be both quarterbacking Texas and Tennessee at that point next year. I don't know 2 years. It's just really hard to project that far down. So we'll see if both are still there. But Jack, when you look at with it all being out there now, do you think Tennessee got a good draw? Do you think it's a fair draw when you look at where the rest of the conference went? What was your reaction to it?
I thought it was a very fair draw. I mean, a lot of SEC East teams, you keep all the 4 main rivalries, Kentucky, Florida, Bama, and Vandy, and then you also get Georgia. I don't think it's a big surprise Tennessee got Georgia or anything. And then the current SEC West schools you get, very manageable schools to play. It's not like you're getting LSU, right? So Arkansas, Miss State, I think that's pretty manageable. And then Oklahoma, I'm not big on Oklahoma. You look at their schedule, they're going to have a tough go of it in the SEC. They may only win 2 SEC games. I'm just not confident in their ability to bounce back in a big way as they're entering the SEC. I mean, they went, 6-7 last year? Year one under Brent Venables didn't look good. They got run off the field by TCU, lost to Kansas, got blasted in the Red River. I just don't know about Oklahoma, so I think Tennessee could win that game too. Yeah, Georgia hurts the ceiling. It hurts the ceiling of going to maybe 11-1 because you also play Alabama, but very manageable compared to the rest of the league for sure.
I don't think we just have to. This year's going to be big in whether or not we need to readjust our expectations from Alabama with Tommy Rees and company. Like, you just beat
100%.
them. Like,
yes.
If they're an 8-4, 9-3 type team this year, their over-under is 10.5. Like, more beatable than they have looked in a really long time. And it's so weird because they've never had this much talent where they're 90% in the blue chip ratio, and you still feel really good about Alabama, where they're not as, like, Tennessee fans should not look at Alabama the same as how they've looked at them for the last 15 years. I don't think you can look at it the same right now, and don't be as fearful. Georgia, I understand. Georgia is the one to just be like, yeah, that's not great. I would like to get them off the calendar. I would like to get the Georgia Bulldogs off my yearly calendar, but I don't know.
I agree with your point when Alabama's in Knoxville. I still think you should fear Alabama if you're.
I mean, they were in that game 2 years ago in the fourth quarter at Alabama. They ran out of steam, but they were in that game. They were still scoring, going blow for blow with Alabama until about midway through the fourth quarter was when Alabama.
No, started the fourth quarter.
Okay,
I mean, it was 28 nothing. Bang, 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 bang.
That's true.
Yeah. But your point, and I would. As I feel like I typically do with a lot of your points, I agree with them. I would turn them back a notch. Like, Alabama's not going 8-4. Let's not fool ourselves here. That's not happening. But to your point, they go 9-3, 10-2. Alabama goes 10-2 for what would be the third straight, I guess the second straight year, and they were vulnerable the year before too. Like, then yeah, I mean, that's a different beast than the beast that was like, man, if anybody beats them in the regular season, like, it's a bad year. It's a bad regular season for Alabama. So you're right, and I think it is a different beast. I would just be hesitant to.
Well, hold on. Here's what I'll say. I'm not 8-4, but like, I have 9-3 for Alabama this year, and I just maybe they get a bowl game and they lose that fourth game, but I mean,
Tennessee and LSU and Tuscaloosa, you still have 9-3.
If they beat Tennessee and Tuscaloosa.
No, I'm saying with LSU and Tennessee going to Tuscaloosa this year, you still have Alabama finishing 9-3.
They lost at A&M the last time they were there. They go to
Texas
A&M this year.
Tuscaloosa.
Texas,
they get all the big games at home.
That's fine. But, like, you got to go to Auburn. And when Auburn's feisty, that game
on.
is going to be feisty. Hugh Freeze has beaten Alabama before.
They're so far behind.
I don't know about that. They're right there in the blue chip ratio too. I would not be surprised if Auburn Alabama is a game to the wire this year. Like, I would not be surprised. Harsin almost did it. We forget what Harsin was doing with his group. What was that, last year or 2 years ago? Where it was it
had
came
been
down
2 years ago. Last year.
Yeah, 2 years ago, where it was right there. Like, the game was actually right there for Auburn. I am not putting that one in. It's at Auburn. I understand they get some key matchups at home, but I think LSU's better than them this year. I think Tennessee will just see. I don't know. Tennessee will see. Texas, I think, will be better than Alabama this year. And then I just look at A&M, wild card. They won last time, and A&M could either be a CFP team or 5-7. Like, I don't think there's a middle ground for them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Auburn just because that game seems to always be close when it's at Auburn, no matter how good Auburn is. And obviously you have the Hugh Freeze factor. But I think where I strongly disagree with you is, like, Alabama's been really vulnerable the last 2 years on the road. At home, they really haven't been. And maybe you could say maybe their road schedule's just been more heavy and more difficult, but they've basically still been the same Alabama at home. So, sure, could one of Tennessee, LSU, Texas beat them? Yes, but
do you still feel that way if Tyler Buckner is under center? Do you still feel that way if Jalen Milroe is under center?
I mean, those are the people who are going to be under center. So yeah, or I guess Ty Simpson.
But I'm saying it's not Bryce Young anymore. It's not Tua.
Well, it's not going to be the same Alabama offense anymore, too. They're going to change their whole philosophy to more. You don't think Nick Saban hasn't seen what Kirby Smart's done with Stetson Bennett, a walk-on winning 2 natties, and is going to change his offense a little bit. I do think Nick Saban wishes he had a better quarterback. There's no doubt. But they're going to change to a more ground and pound, play defense. The old Alabama is going to come out more this year under Tommy Rees, I think.
I think it's just going to be worse. Dude, I'm betting on it being worse.
I mean, maybe it will be worse, but just because it's a little bit worse doesn't – I mean, the offense being worse, it goes to just complementary football and the style of play. Alabama's defense, I bet, will be a lot better statistically in just about every margin this year because of the way they play. And the talent is still there. And you're right, quarterbacks – I'm the first person to say quarterback's the most important position in football. It's the equalizer for teams trying to catch the Alabama and Georgias of the world. But Alabama's so good everywhere else, and I think they're going to be better around their quarterback this year than they were around Bryce Young last season, at least, maybe not 2 years ago, that I would just be hesitant to thinking, all right, they might play a lot more close games, a lot more competitive games. That doesn't mean they're going to lose all of them, and they'll probably still win 75% of them, and in my opinion, go 10-2, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they go 11-1.
I'd be floored if they went 11-1. I also think with the Tennessee factor in, the thing that doesn't even really matter to me if it's here or in Tuscaloosa. The bigger issue is, like, last time they were in Tuscaloosa, Brent and I talked about it yesterday or 2 days ago, where the reason Tennessee fell apart was that Tennessee's tackles and offensive line couldn't hold up against Alabama on the road. Like, Hendon was getting killed by that point, and they had no answer for the front seven. Last year, Darnell Wright completely shut down Will Anderson, and that he did have time. Like, Hendon Hooker had time all day long against Alabama to do what he needed to do. John Campbell on the left side next year, Gerald Mincey on the right side. Joe Milton's going to take some sacks. Like, I just could see the situation unfolding again where it's like, it really just will come down to the tackles. And if they're C's, B minuses against Alabama's A+ front seven, then you can I just don't see how Tennessee wins that game and is able to do what they need to do to win at Alabama. Like, it really just might come down to the tackles and Joe's maneuverability that has never once popped up since being in Knoxville. I have my doubts on that front.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, and I think that goes back to a greater point when you look at Tennessee's offense this season. I think we've talked about before, but last year, you Jack and I do it where you're looking during the week for what other teams' coaches are saying about Tennessee, and looking for content and stuff like that. And everybody just said, "Oh, we got to get our feet in the ground. We got to not give up the big play." Well, all that was fine and dandy, but Tennessee with Hendon Hooker could drive down the field 10 plays, 75 yards on you. Unless you were Georgia, just about every drive. They could run the ball. They could take the stuff underneath. Like, they would play patient. Like, I guess that was your best bet against the best offense in the country, but it wasn't a good one. This year, to me, that feels like a lot more of a feasible plan against Tennessee. Like, unless Tennessee's just good enough to line up and run right at you, which a lot of teams they probably will be. The Alabama and Georgias of the world, I'm skeptical that they will be. Unless they do that, just do not let them take the top off the defense with big play. Make Joe Milton maneuver the pocket well, make good decisions, convert third and intermediate. That to me is where I think Tennessee's offense could be a lot worse this year. Is that